Hey, yo, Foxboro. Welcome back to another episode with me, Sarah Marshall, and my newest apparent co host, because he's been on the last couple ones. It is Pat Pitts. Hello. Or
Well, you
Paddy.
no, you got
Paddy.
it. I wasn't. You didn't address me as. I
The
like to.
the champion of the peeps.
There it is. Thank you.
Okay.
Yes, you got to address a champion like
Yeah, but
that, because if
I
you
don't.
don't, then they're not a champion. And I'm a
Yeah, but
champion
then
of the peeps. I'm a champion of the loaded box because who else has been there longer and also gets the things right. So I just, I like to be recognized,
but
and
not
it's not
everybody that watches this is a fan of wrestling. So,
doesn't matter. But they're a fan of the Patriots,
okay.
and if I am
Well,
the champion of the Patriot peeps,
then
you
what am
know.
I?
You're part of the bloodline, obviously.
I'm part of the bloodline. No, I need to be in Judgment Day. I feel
So
like
you'd
I
be a
would be good.
Judgment Day person?
Yeah.
You'd be Judgment Day? Really?
Do you think so? Who would I be?
I could see it. I just feel like
the
you'd be more of an
the only
more
woman
face.
the only woman in Imperium.
See, I feel like you could do well in Imperium though.
Yeah, because that's being serious.
Or the Brawling Brutes.
No, I can't stand them. Actually, it's more so I don't like Ridge just because of what happened with Big E. But
Fair.
I don't know. We'll have to think about that. No one
That
cares
is
about
a
this
topic
conversation
for our
except for you and
wrestling
me.
show.
Yeah. I know. I've thought about that too, like what would be more fun, being a babyface or a heel. But
Ooh.
anyway, this is when we talk about football. We talk about the Patriots, who are playing at Green Bay on Sunday, which is tomorrow, and it's actually one of their very few 425 games. I was going to say 125 because that's how it is here, but I totally forgot because most of their games are morning games or morning games for me, 10 a.m. games. But so that's kind of exciting because then I can actually sleep a little bit if I want and not have to like make sure that I have to be up by 10, you know?
Are you gonna get up tomorrow? Because 6 a.m. your time or
Hell
7
no.
a.m.
6:30 a.m.
It's 6:30. Okay,
Yeah.
6:30 a.m. We got our boys across the pond.
Yeah, but who is it this time?
It's a great Clash of the Titans.
Okay.
Saints and Vikings.
Oh.
We got no Jameis, which I'm already sad about. The Red Rifle is gonna fire it up.
Wait, he's their backup? Dalton is their backup? Oh,
yeah,
wow.
Hilarious, right?
Okay.
So funny.
He looks like an 80s villain right now with his like beard and whatever. But anyway, so let's get into, before we get too carried away, because we have a tendency to do that. Let's get right into the Patriots at the Packers. And at first I wanted to talk about the Patriots injury report because that is pretty relevant. I mean, granted, this is from yesterday into today. We won't know the finalization of it until tomorrow. Oh yeah, our friend Chris, I always call him Chris Godwin. He is in the UK, so his game is at 9:25 p.m.
Oh, top of the morning.
You know, I do not envy you, sir. I don't. Well, I don't. I think he's in England. I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know. Well, you
he's
said top of the
pond.
morning. That's like Irish or Scottish, bro.
They're all in a kingdom that's united.
Okay, whatever. Okay. Anyway, so Mac Jones has already been announced to be out dealing with his ankle injury. He did return to practice during the media portion yesterday, but I am totally okay with this. I know that there was like such mixed reports about like the severity of the injury. And obviously the pictures that came out of him going down the stairs didn't do it any justice. It made it look really bad. But because he returned to practice and that's great and he's like progressing, I'm totally fine with them having him miss this game because I don't want to further the injury. Do you agree?
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, he already had surgery on it in Colorado. It's already happened.
Wait, Mac Jones had surgery?
Yeah, that's I put that out. I heard that from somebody.
Okay, so allegedly he had
allegedly.
Okay.
I got my sources. I got my peeps keep me informed. So if that's the case, then then he's only at practice because he's starting to rehab. And to be honest, did anyone really expect Mac Jones to play this week? I didn't. Not a chance in hell.
I think some people were like really hopeful because there's so many people who hate Hoyer the Destroyer, Mr. Axel.
I hate him. I don't hate him specifically. I love Brian Hoyer as a person and what he's done.
You just don't like him as a quarterback.
I hate him as a quarterback and what his role is right now on this team. And it's strictly because it's just the team going backwards. We're reverting back to the olden days of Patriot football where to evolve, you have to change. And by change, when a shit situation like this happens, what do? You have to go towards the future. Why the hell did you draft Bailey Zappi if you're not going to just play him? And I hate these people that are in my replies saying, well, you don't want to throw him to the wolves and have him just face an NFL defense right off the bat. Well, okay, so
I
do you
mean,
want to what did Trevor Lawrence do? What did Mac Jones do? All these guys that they got their first opportunity, they weren't just coddled into it. And this goes for any job. To be honest with you, my first job, I didn't get much training. They just said, you're going to learn some stuff the first day. You're not going to learn it all. And you're going to learn from getting thrown into the fire. And that's the best way to learn. Throw Bailey Zappi in there. I wrote a little bit about him, about him and his playing time throughout the preseason. And yes, I was a little bit critical because you have to be in this line of work a little bit critical.
He was a bit erratic.
But the potential's there. You can see it a little bit. You can see that if you sharpen the edges a little bit, then you could have something to not only rely on if Matt gets hurt, but then maybe actually trade him away instead of getting rid of Stidham so prematurely. Work on his skills where he plays himself into a contract. And this is the perfect time too to do so because you're playing the Packers at Lambeau. All right, you're already in a weird year where you're not a top 10 team in the NFL anymore. You're not. So stop trying to be that. Try to learn some things about yourself. Throw some guys in there that really wouldn't have got the potential, but now they might due to injury or just opportunity.
See, I disagree, but I think that maybe, I mean, I'm not completely thrilled about Hoyer playing either, but I feel like I trust him more than Zappi. But I feel like this also indicates that Belichick is still trying to win. I think it would be great to have Zappi out there and see what he can do, especially against such a tough opponent. But if he's still trying to win, I don't know that would be the best.
Well, if you want to win, you don't start Brian Hoyer because he's 0-11 in his last 11 starts. The last time he started a game for the New England Patriots was in Kansas City. Yeah. A game where if you start Cam Newton, you would have won. And that's a shenanigans statement that I just made. But sometimes shenanigans is true.
But that one is very true. No, I know. And I agree. I think I wrote about it when I wrote about Mac's injury and what it was going to do for the Patriots. But I'm going to be the optimistic one here. I'm going to try and think that Brian Hoyer and his veteran mindset is going to be good enough. And we're going to get into what I think that they're going to need to do to win. So we'll see. But let's talk about the other injuries because we can get into the Brian Hoyer discussion forever. But the other ones that have already been announced out and now just announced going to IR is Yodny Kajuz is going to IR with a thumb injury. At least that's what's being reported. He was just announced to be going to IR, which then brought Marcus Cannon. Why does that sound weird to me for some reason? That sounds
he's been
wrong.
Around a while.
He is now on the roster, elevated from the practice squad. Lawrence Guy is out, and Jacoby Myers was announced as being out today. So I think as far as those injuries going into this game, I think the most concerning injury for me is Lawrence Guy, because last week when he went down and didn't return, the defense really struggled up the middle. And I worry that will become a big issue tomorrow. Jacoby Myers obviously is Mr. Reliable and whatever, but they had a huge game last week with Devontae Parker. The week before there was the huge game from Nelson Aguilar. So it's if that needs to happen again, then that's going to happen. Plus, if you paid attention to preseason and watch Brian Hoyer in there, Hoyer and Zappi both have different chemistry with other receivers. So I don't even know how much we would have seen Jacoby Myers, because it seems like Brian Hoyer, it has more of a connection with Humphrey or Wilkerson. He always, when he would come in even last season, or I'm sorry, with Cam Newton, the Cam Newton season, he was always throwing to the guys that Cam never cared about. Christian Wilkerson got a touchdown, and then he's the reason that Jacoby Myers got his first touchdown. I'm curious to see how that pans out, but I think that Lawrence Guy is going to be more of a loss.
Yeah, Lawrence Guy is definitely a veteran anchor of the defensive line. I'm not worried there. I'm going to flip it, and my worry is the offense because the defensive line has been probably the most entertaining to watch as a Patriots fan this entire season. Judon looks fantastic. Barmore looks like a bulldozer just trucking through the line. And then, my guy who on the Gillette Gazette podcast, we're a big stand on Dietrich Wise, we're hashtag Wise up. To the fact that he might be a contender for breakout star in the defense this year. He's just for him to stop Lamar Jackson the way he did and earn 3 sacks against him. That's
in the first half.
Incredible.
Yeah. Well, so and I don't if you saw his numbers, you saw he's on the path to be this could be his best year of his entire career.
Finally, good, getting some recognition. It's the offense to me that scares me. And it's obviously, I could sit here and blabber on about Brian Hoyer, but it's not that. It's the fact that you have Jacoby Myers now is going to be out, and you're going with Hoyer. Well, who's the next best reliable guy when it comes to passing? It's Kendrick Bourne. Issue is we haven't seen Kendrick Bourne a lot this year. He's just been on the sidelines because Patricia likes to keep in the doghouse because Patricia loves to have a little bit of power and then overuse it. And that's exactly what he's doing because when he overuses it, he just puts his team in jeopardy. I saw it happen in the Motor City. I'm not going to have it happen in my home city.
Sorry, my cat.
No, it's fine. I feel like I'm ranting. No, I'm just I get really angry about this stuff because it's just Patricia's
agree.
So infuriating. You're gonna have a defensive guy.
I know.
Who is the offensive coordinator essentially, but they don't want to call him that because of a loophole. It's mind blowing to me. And if the Patriots, and I have this in the Pits parlay this week, that the Pats cover. I don't think they'll win. Not a shot they win this week. Just getting that out in the open. But if they can cover, I think they can do that. But Patricia's got to get out of his own way. He's got to get out of his own way. Or just give the clipboard to Joe Judge.
Well, and I'm trying to be hopeful because, for what we've seen from preseason until now, I've been saying that I felt like he had too much on his plate because he was trying to be the offensive play caller while then also trying to be the offensive line coach. And so I'm like, okay, both parts are struggling. So something's happening and it has to be on his shoulders because he's responsible for both. So now that we're seeing the offensive line step up and be not so much of the issue offensively, I'm like, okay, when are we going to see the play calling and offense execution not be the issue? I would like to believe that because the line is kind of settled, that maybe at some point soon we will see the offense click better because there's way too much talent in the receiver room, in the tight end room. Mac Jones is making mistakes that are not typically things that he's been known to do. And I feel like it's just a combination of feeling uncomfortable with the game plan or the playbook, feeling uncomfortable with having to listen to Bill Belichick and Matt Patricia and Joe Judge, all talking to you about what the offense is doing. It's just a hot mess. So, but seeing the line performs so much better from week 1 to week 2 and then beyond. I would like to think that that's going to translate over to the offense. It might never happen, but since he's overseeing both, I'm like, okay, well, you got one figured out, continue that, but also figure out this thing, this giant section, because the defense can win you games, but they can't win you every single game.
No, the defense can only put you in a great position to win, which they've done. I will get hats off to the defense so far because they are doing the complete opposite of what they did at the end of last season, and they're actually giving the offense a chance to capitalize and win the game. If you look back last week, Mac throws that pick, whatever, picks happen. But then for Jabril Peppers to force that fumble and swing the momentum right back to the Patriots.
Jones, but yes.
It was Jonathan Jones?
Jonathan Jones forced the fumble. Jabril Peppers recovered it.
Thank you. My eyes from the skybox up there at the game can see it. So
I had to write about it, so that's how I know.
That's why we got you. But doesn't matter the case. Whoever did it, is the fact that they could do that right now.
Yeah.
And then you just put up poo
Yeah.
the next time. Like, come on.
I know.
That's on Patricia. That's not on Mac Jones. I mean, a little bit, but like that's on the play calling. That is on what you're doing. We got a comment.
Oh, we have plenty, but this is just one. Chris Godwin loves Hey Yo Foxboro. So he says there's talent on the offense, but is there talent in the coaching? And he said, I'm looking at you, Matty P. Yeah, and
fuck no.
This is a conversation that I think that we might have all year until maybe the offense starts clicking. Obviously, Matt Patricia is going to be the scapegoat for it because that's who we're being told is in charge of all of this. Because I've had this conversation on here before where I had read an article and I can't remember where it was. I let me see if I might have it bookmark still. Okay, it was Albert Breer with NBC Sports Boston. So he posted about, this is weeks ago, why Belichick passed on Bill O'Brien and Nick Caley for the offensive coordinator position. And if you didn't read that or you weren't on the show when I was talking about it, basically he says because both would have been a 1-year rental or assumed to be a 1-year rental. Bill O'Brien is obviously the offensive play caller for Alabama, worked 2 years ago with Mac Jones. But what would prevent him from coming back to the NFL, being the offensive play caller for the Patriots, having a successful year and not taking a head coaching job after 1 year? What would stop him? Like he's been out of the NFL for a handful of years now. Why wouldn't he want to try and get back? I mean, it's possible that's something that he's not interested in. Maybe he doesn't want to be a head coach anymore. Obviously, that didn't work out too well for him. But I don't blame Belichick for being worried about that. And you can't really just go off of their word because maybe at this point, Brian O'Brien would be like, yeah, no, I'm going to stay here. But what if he got like the opportunity of a lifetime next year, And I believe that they said Nick Caley is also only around for the end of this year. So, it's like you don't want to entrust them to stay because you obviously want like your coaches to go on and flourish somewhere, but then you also don't want to put Mac Jones in a situation where he has 3 offensive coordinators in 3 years. Like that's ridiculous. I mean, he dealt with that in college, but it's much more difficult to deal with that in the NFL.
You know who has dealt with coaching changes up the wazoo? Quarterback? Baker Mayfield. And look how that's turned out. I mean, it's a very drastic scenario, but no, that's the way I look at things, is that you have guys that have all this potential. I don't think Baker Mayfield's a bad quarterback. I think he's just been dealt a shit hand. And sometimes you can only do as much as you can do with the shit hand that you have. Mac Jones a lot more talented of a quarterback than Baker Mayfield, so he can get away with stuff like that. And when everyone's saying, "Oh, Mac stinks" and all this, you're just simple-minded. Get out of your own way. The thing is with Mac Jones is that it's not all of his fault for these issues. It's that these calls, the plays that they're calling, the people that they're having on the field, there's so much that goes into it that literally is not his fault, and he can only do with it what he can. That comes down to coaching. I'm so sick of just this carousel that we're on, that we just keep going back and forth, around and around, and just not getting off and actually getting a solution to the problem. We're just trying to fix it, with duct tape and a prayer. I mean, Belichick, like this is, and I relate this back to the early days of the Patriots where Parcells was involved. And a lot of things that Kraft wrote about in his book was that when he was involved in the Patriots organization at that time, Parcells wanted too much power. He wanted power on the field, and that would translate into how, front office stuff, contract stuff like that works. Belichick was the guy that put a stop to that because of just his wisdom and all. But now we're getting into that stage where he's becoming his mentor. And when that's the case, you have to step away. Sometimes stepping away is not a moment of weakness. It's a sign of you're understanding that the times are moving without you.
Yeah. So I want to cap off the injury report quickly so we can move on to the juicy stuff. So Kyle Duggar is questionable at this point, but Mike Reese did say that signs are trending in the right direction for him to make his return to action tomorrow against the Packers, since he's been dealing with a knee injury. And I am extremely hopeful that he is back tomorrow, because last week he was largely missed. especially in limiting Mark Andrews. We know that that's been his matchup mostly every single week. He's guarding tight ends. And I mean, Mark Andrews is kind of, I'm not saying he is Gronk, but he's a Gronk-like guy. He's a giant.
No, I know what you mean. Yeah.
He's one of my NFL crushes, if we're being honest.
He
And
fits the mold.
I know, right? I tweeted, I think I ended up deleting.
He so hits it on the nail with your time. It's unbelievable.
I know. Unfortunately, I think he's married. So yeah,
darn.
I know. But so he's a huge guy. He's like not the fastest, but can make plays, get people off his back. Like he's that type of guy. And that was just exactly what happened last week. So Kyle Duggar was definitely missed. I don't know that the Packers are necessarily a tight end worrisome type of team, but Robert Tonyan obviously is probably going to get a little bit more looks because he's been on the team, and Rodgers likes the guys that he's familiar with. He's having a rough time this year dealing with all these new receivers. So if we can have Duggar back and kind of try and maybe limit Tonyan, that would be awesome. Yeah. But I want to get into the key matchups because there are a lot of them. So the first one being the Patriots defense needs to slow down the tandem of Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon. Two of the best tight end or running backs in the league, I would say, at least for a team, a duo. Patriots are one of them as well, but that's, a conversation for a different day. And they've been heavy on the run game so far. I think a lot of that goes hand in hand with Rodgers being uncomfortable with having so many young receivers because Davante Adams, of course, was traded to the Raiders and is reportedly unhappy with the Raiders. But, it is Davante? What it is. Yeah, he's reportedly unhappy with their start to the season. So,
well, who's happy about being 0-3?
Not many people, I would assume, unless the people that are used to it, like if you go every year like 0-3, then you're probably like, okay, this is just another season the same way. Like, like the Lions before or like the Browns. In the past.
Not my guys. Don't come on my Lions like that. I'm like not only a champ of the peeps of the Patriot peeps, my one pride peeps too. I got you. Don't worry. Nope. Wrong
anyway,
wrong title. I got you peeps.
So Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon have actually been splitting snaps, which I thought was a little bit interesting because Jones obviously has been like the go-to guy for the run game on the Packers. So it's a little bit interesting that we're seeing him split snaps with A.J. Dillon, but you kind of see them just like interchanging, and it's like you don't really see there's like that much of a difference. And I mean that in the most respectful way possible. But because the Patriots have been struggling defensively in missed tackles, they're averaging 7 missed tackles a game, tied for 4th most in the league. Do you think they can be successful in stopping Jones and Dillon?
Yes, they were very good at stopping the Ravens running backs last weekend, even though J.K. Dobbins' first game back. Like, it's still, you take your wins when you can get them at this point.
Yeah.
With the Patriots defense shaping up how they are now, the defense is probably the one aspect I'm most confident in, and that lies not only with Judon being a dog, I love the way you say
his name.
Judon.
Yeah, I just say it's Judon.
Judon. I don't know.
You say Judon, and I say Judon.
On, because he's always on.
Judon.
He's on.
It's just Judon like when people say TV instead of TV.
TV?
TV and TV. There's a difference.
TV?
I do this with my sister and my brother-in-law so much because they say things like they accentuate like different parts of the word than I do. Yeah. So they'll be like, I was just watching TV. And I was like, you mean you were watching TV? Like, why are you saying TV?
I've got so many people just telling me I say things wrong from school that
I'm not saying you're wrong.
Out the other. Oh, I know what you mean, but I'm just like, I'm so accustomed to it.
Judon.
My whole life.
Judon.
So Judon, he's a dog. No, he's going to do well. I think I wrote about this. He'll have a sack against Rodgers. I don't really. Yes, he is going. Dude, Chris, Goodwin gets it, man. He's definitely going to. He doesn't only need to. He's going to. I just manifested it right now because Judon has had a sack in every single game this season. He's going to continue that streak. which then now let's go a little bit full circle. We'll go back to linebackers. Juwan Bentley is going to step up in this game. Yeah, we haven't heard a lot from him, but he's been the unanimous locker room leader when it comes to the defense this entire to the start of the season. I really like what he's doing. He's a great player. He brings that explosiveness to the defense that has been missing for such a long time. Hard hitter as well, and he's going to be, I think, a key factor in stopping that run. And then my guy, Dietrich Wise, hashtag Wise up, baby. He's going to have another sack. He's going to be all over that. So it's not the run that I'm concerned about, because the line and run stopping linebackers are going to do their job. I'm not worried about that. It's when we get into the secondary, and if Kyle Duggar isn't there, I have my faith, obviously, but we're gonna get into it. But I'm not worried about the defense. I mean, they're gonna stop them. I don't see Jones.
Do you think that the defense is going to be able to create a play? Are they going to force a fumble?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Because they're flying.
So the Packers, like I said, they're definitely using the run game a heck of a lot more than they have been in the past, especially when you have Aaron Rodgers as your quarterback. So he's not throwing nearly as much. I had the stats, but I just apparently forgot to keep notes of them. So, I think that it's going to be a big game on the ground for both teams for sure, and it's going to be a defensive game where it's like they're going to have to once again try and create opportunities for the Patriots offense, because the offense hasn't proven to be able to get down the field and score enough. Like they're not moving the ball too well. So if the defense can give them more opportunities, then hopefully they can take advantage of them, because I think the defense now has 4 turnovers and they've not really done a whole lot with that. So this kind of goes hand in hand though. So keeping Rodgers off the field, that part of that is going to be the defense slowing the run, giving extra opportunities to the offense. Like I said, they had 4 total sacks last week, which I think all of them came in the first half. So that's another thing, is we need the defense to be consistent the entire way through. And I get it when the offense is not performing and like keep holding up their side of the ball, of their side of the job, whatever, you know what I'm saying. The defense is going to get tired because like they don't get a break because the offense goes out, they're out there for 3 minutes and the defense is back. But we need to see that consistency. That was an issue that was big for them last year, where the first 2/3 of the season or so the defense was really great, and then at the end it was just like, what happened? I mean, we don't need to look back at the playoff game, that's for sure. So last week there was 4 sacks. 3 of them were from Wise, as I said, and they were on Lamar Jackson. So that gives me a lot of hope, because Rodgers doesn't move like Lamar. Like, he can run, but like he's not quick and nimble the way that Lamar is. So how confident are you with the defense getting to Rodgers? I know you kind of
alluded to it, but no, I am very confident in the defense getting to Rodgers. I mean, Bakhtiari being in and starting is going to, be another obstacle to throw into the road, but I don't think it's going to be a big one. The defense has really just, I can't say enough good about the defense, because they keep putting the team in a great position to win the game. Yeah. Their constant pressure on the quarterback. I mean, they sacked Lamar Jackson, was it 6 times?
4 times.
Okay, so it was 4
actual sacks, but they hit him. I let me look it up as you're talking. Go ahead.
They got to him, which is something that teams around the league just struggle to even get to him. Now you have a guy like Rodgers who, he runs. He's going to scramble for that 5, 6, maybe 10-yard gain if he needs to, but he's not a scrambler. He's going to want to stay in the pocket, or at least close to it.
5 quarterback hits, by the way, on top of the 4 sacks.
They're getting to the quarterback, which was the one thing that they struggled desperately with to end the year. Now you're getting to, if you can get to Rodgers and keep him dancing around in that pocket and then force that sack or a QB hit and really rough him up, I mean, then the secondary is just, they're not even going to have to work that hard, because it's just going to be there for them, and they just need to be at the right moment at the right time, or be at the right spot at the right time.
Yeah, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they can exploit Rodgers' discomfort with the receivers that he has on the team, because we know how he is. He's very vocal when he's upset with the receivers, and he's through 3 games has not necessarily like been vocal about it, but you can see it on the field that he's just not comfortable. Like his new security blanket with Adams gone is Randall Cobb, because he has a man crush on Randall Cobb. Obviously, he was like threatening to leave the team if they didn't bring Randall Cobb back. So that is going to be an interesting matchup, which we'll get into in a little bit.
Did you know Alan Lazard is 6'5"?
I didn't, and I feel he needs. I said this on I don't know if it was I think it was the week 1 Sunday show that I was on. He needs to join Evan Ingram as a shapeshifter, because that man does not look the same every time I look at him. And I'm like, how does this happen? Like, why do you look drastically different? Like, it's like, another one that I think, Cortland Sutton, dude, if you see his player picture, like on fantasy football, and then you see him on the field, I'm like, that's not the same guy. The guy on fantasy looks like a dweeb. This guy is like jacked, tattooed, like
I'm going
whatever.
To check.
You're gonna check yet? Well, I mean, I think it's the same one as last year. But like, yeah, no.
I just haven't seen him, so I have no.
Yeah.
You know.
So they're just a bunch of shapeshifters. Not as bad as like Evan Ingram. That man, I don't understand. I don't understand. Maybe I just pictured him in my head different. I don't know. But anyway, so yeah, keeping Rodgers off the field is going to be a huge thing for the defense. And the biggest thing for the offensive line, does he not look like a dweeb?
There's no way.
That like
dude is one pair of glass away from being Urkel.
Yeah, like, it's like, but then you see him on the field, and it's like that's not what he looks like. Like he looks incredible. like a jacked receiver. So, but in that picture,
like Nate
it's like
Burleson's fraternal twin.
It's like a cheesy school photo. I don't know. It's just very. It doesn't add up to me. You know. So the offensive line, since we talked about that already, hopefully they can continue on the path that they're on, where they are doing really well, and they're, you know, I would say that it's more important that they do well this week, but I wouldn't agree to that, because obviously it's important for them to protect their quarterback no matter what. But given the circumstances with Mac Jones out, I hope that they can just protect him as much as possible, because that's another thing that is going to lead to an easy loss if they just keep like letting him get hit. So now that Kenny Clark is going to be on the line, the Patriots are going to have a big task ahead of them. So he's a great run defender, obviously, which is going to be interesting to see how the Patriots running backs can match up with him, because overall the Packers defense or run defense is not that good, but he's the best on the line. So I am interested to see how they try to navigate that, because I don't know that they're going to want to test Hoyer too much throwing the ball. I think it depends, which is going to go into the next thing, is if Jair Alexander is out. That
is he supposed to be out? Because that's going to.
He's questionable. We're going to get into it in a second, but he's questionable at this point.
Shape shifting. That's some shifts, some shape
so,
thing. I don't know.
I would assume that David Andrews, he even talked about it. He's probably going to be tasked with limiting Clark the most. But do you think he'll be successful? Because we kind of talked about this the other day when I was on Full Press Packers, where Andrews struggles a bit in defending nose tackles. So, and see, look, Kyle's here. As I just said it, I was on Full Press Packers with Kyle. Hi. So how do you think that Andrews will do? Do you think he'll be able to limit him as much as possible, or do you think it's going to be a struggle? Because the offense continues to pile up the flags, and Andrews is one of them that has gotten caught holding.
Andrews loves to hold on to his defenders, and just, I wish someone would hold me like David Andrews holds the defender, because like, goddamn, it's so nice. Like, just make me feel loved, and that's kind of what he does with the Packers, or not the Packers, but any opponent team.
Yeah,
these holding calls are happening at the worst possible times, and that's not just like a rookie or second year guy. Like, that's David fucking Andrews. Like, come on, dude. Like, you're a veteran leader. Like, you're the Bear. Bears don't hold, they maul. Like, what are you doing?
When he pretends that he didn't do it. Like when you watch like the mic'd up stuff, or even just like the quick replay, and you could just see him being like, I didn't do anything, and it's like, David, stop playing. Like, you know what you did.
You know exactly that look on your face.
You know you held on to that man. You know it.
But Cole Strange is another guy.
I know.
Listen. David Andrews has his issues. Cole
Yeah.
Strange does not. He has been phenomenal to start the season so far. And like,
he's been AJ Styles to start the season.
Damn right. He's been great. Like, this is the guy that everyone was laughing at, that he wouldn't be, a good pick or he would struggle. Like, no, he's doing exactly what Bill Belichick drafted him to do. Could he? And that's one of the guys. Like, that's the crazy thing about the offensive line is that guys that like that are stepping up right now. You have Marcus Cannon getting thrown into the mix. I mean, that's a nice old face to strengthen that line. Nice veteran anchor.
I swear, I don't. Are you just saying this because it's just in your brain, or is this some of this just on like the tip of your tongue because I sent you the notes?
I have the notes.
You keep getting ahead of me.
I have the notes in front of me so we stay on track because I have ADD, massive ADD.
No, I am aware.
So I will just ramble.
When we speak, we have ADD. Like when you and I are, yeah.
Oh, it's unbelievable the rabbit holes we can go down.
I know. So Kyle says he's right on cue. Yes, you are,
Damn
sir.
Right
it's kind of ironic that I was literally just saying I was on the podcast and then you showed up. It was very weird timing. Chris Godwin, shout out to Chris Godwin.
He would be. And yeah, Chris, I would agree with you too.
He says I would be concerned by the O-line and the flags, and that is something that I will talk about in a little bit flags. As well. Yes. And Kyle says all of the what a strange pick takes look cold now. Absolutely. I know.
That's funny.
Like the pun.
Because his name is strange.
I know.
Like the doctor.
So like I said, I want to get into it a little bit more. So are you concerned? I keep asking that, but because the Patriots are probably going to try to rely on the run game a lot, especially given their circumstances, but also the Packers defense not being super great at the run defense. Are you concerned about Kenny Clark preventing them to be successful on the ground?
Not specifically Kenny Clark. It's all, I mean, yeah, he's going to throw a wrench into it because he is a dominant factor on the defense. My thing is that it's all about the plays that you call to, not to take your word here, but neutralize them, take them out of the equation. And they're going to do that by maybe throwing one or two more blockers on him. If it's this type of run play or if it's for blocking, if I almost said Mac, but the quarterback who I don't want to name Hoyer, Axel. See, like, why can't he just be cool? Like, Axel is such a badass name.
That's not
like Brian.
Did you hear Hoyer. Did you hear the story behind his name?
What is his parents like a massive Guns N' Roses fans?
No, his dad's name is Axel, and he wanted his son to be named Axel, but his mom said we can name him Axel, but we're calling him Brian. So it wasn't his decision. He's been called Brian his whole life.
But like Axel's so cool. I don't know. Like if like that's the thing. Imagine Axel Hoyer gets out there. I am.
Oh my gosh!
I'm leading the charge. Like let's go.
Axel and McCorkle. Huh? Axel and McCorkle. Those are our quarterbacks.
But McCorkle is very Irish, which kind of fits the demographic here. Where Axel, this is not like it. Just cool. Sounds not. Yeah, it sounds way too cool to be from Massachusetts.
Yeah. Well, and I feel like it's almost like a wrestling name. Like I said, there's certain names when you hear it, it's like, okay, you expect that kid to be a certain way. Like I've always said with like Brock Lesnar, right? Like he is birthed and they were like, we're going to name him Brock and his name is Brock Lesnar. I'm like, that kid is going to grow up and have to be a badass, because if he is going to grow up and be a dweeb with a powerful name like Brock Lesnar, that kid deserves to get his ass kicked. Like,
hi, I'm Brock Lesnar.
Yeah, can you imagine?
I'm gonna count.
Can you imagine?
Like that just doesn't fit. It's if you go Axel, that's the confidence. Like Brian, but going back to the topic.
Yeah. Oh jeez.
It's floor slippery. No, I where were we? Brian Hoyer. I just don't have the confidence like I would for anyone else. If it was
I understand. The only good thing is that they've kind of been able to prepare for a full week, knowing that Jones was probably not going to play, which is a lot better. To go back to your earlier point about not feeling confident with Hoyer because of what we saw in the Chiefs game. You have to remember he found out a day before that he was probably going to play, and the game was pushed till Tuesday.
I don't care.
So Whatever. Anyway, okay, we're gonna get into Jair Alexander. He is questionable right now. Obviously, one of the Packers' best cornerbacks.
One of the best.
It's going to be I just was trying to be politically
I
correct.
get it. You're a panderer.
Yes. So I would assume, and from what I understand, most Packers people in the know believe that he will likely play. But I did want to read this little excerpt from Pat's pulpit. They kind of did like a kind of like what I did with Kyle's podcast about like going beyond enemy lines, kind of. So Pat's pulpit went and they spoke with this guy, Evan Western, who writes for Acme Packing Co., which is about the Packers, which is basically SB Nation's Packers website.
Okay.
And so he was asked about this. And so I needing to educate myself on the Packers because I am not, the end all be all of knowledge for every NFL team. So he was asked about whether or not Alexander would play. He said he would bet on him playing. He said if that's the case, the trio of Alexander, Douglas, and Stokes is as good a cornerback trio as you'll see in the NFL today, with Douglas primarily manning the slot. In that case, the weakest link in the secondary is probably the safety, where Darnell Savage continues to be consistently inconsistent. He was very good last week in Tampa, but he and Adrian Amos were responsible for multiple coverage breakdowns in Minnesota, which largely led to Justin Jefferson's huge game. Phenomenal game by Justin Jefferson, and he's just disappointed since then. He goes on to say, if Jair can't go, Douglas will kick outside, and Nixon would take his place in the slot as he did in Tampa, where he had a reasonably solid game. Nixon would and should be a primary target for the passing game in that case. Regardless of Alexander's status, however, I would actually try to scheme up plays to attack Quay Walker, who still very much looks like a rookie in coverage. So as much as it seems like it would be a little bit scary to have Alexander on the field, and of course it would, especially when the offense, one, is struggling, and two, we have Brian Hoyer starting. But even if we had Mac Jones, I don't know that I would feel comfortable regardless, because look at the interceptions. He already has 5 on the year. It seems like no matter what, they will be able to exploit maybe at least one of the corners, or at least take advantage of a safety, or obviously Walker, who's not playing that well. So it's going to be interesting. I'm going to go under the assumption that he's going to play. And I think I would like to believe that that's how they're preparing too. But it's like I said, it's going to be interesting to see how much they actually use the passing game, because they do have Ramondre Stevenson. They have Damian Harris. They do have Pierre Strong Jr. They just haven't been using him. But what do you think, Pat?
I am on the Belichick mindset of you got a game plan like he is going to play. So I've been thinking all week when doing my content, and that just makes me even more terrified that Brian Hoyer is under center, because Jair Alexander is one of the top, not only just defensive backs, but just ball hawkers in the entire league. And when you have a guy like Hoyer who just loves to make accidental mistakes, it's accidental.
Look
at you with the words and plays. I'm just nervous, and I wrote about this, that for my prop bet this week, I would take Hoyer over 1.5 picks, because he's going to make a lot of mistakes. He's going to try to do too much. He's going to try to pass it when he just throw it away. The play call might not be there, so Matty P on the sidelines can put a frown on his face. It's just a recipe for disaster for any quarterback, and especially a quarterback like Brian Hoyer, who's being just launched into this role right now. Just run the ball. Just run the damn ball. Bill Belichick, one of his, I would say idols, or someone he looks up to, is Paul Brown. Paul Brown and Jim Brown did some amazing things with the ground and pound in the 50s. That's the way that they got to play this game. They got to just run the ball, throw a little bit of 1-2 passes every drive, not series, or like every drive, like 1 or 2 passes to, trick them. But no, you got to ground, give the ball to Harris, give the ball to Stevenson, give it to Jonnu Smith. This is a perfect game.
Or Bourne.
Jonnu Smith. Well, that's Bourne.
Even
Yeah,
the run game,
I know what you mean now. Sorry for the emotions are coming out.
Emotions.
Emotional. They're gonna give me some emotional damage, but no, it's kind of like this is the game where you get tricky. You get to use those plays, those
and they
sweeps
need to.
John. Like this is you got to do it. You got to.
It was something they popped up on the screen in last week's game where they were showing how predictable the play calling has been. It's very much on par with how they've played in the recent years, but obviously like that was what happened with the 2-point conversion. That's why it blew up, because they all knew what was coming. So I mean, it would have been I know that we maybe wouldn't have been as critical of it had it worked, but you know, if his foot wasn't touched by a Ravens defender. But yeah, I mean, it's like they need to get better about that. And that was something that everyone complained about with McDaniels, is that he was playing too vanilla and it was too easy for defenses to predict. And so far, that's kind of what's happening. And we were hoping that that was going to be the difference maker with McDaniels leaving.
Yeah.
So Chris says, I would expect the Patriots to run the ball for around 70% of the game. Come on, Ramondre Stevenson. Yeah, I think as long as they can get them involved in the passing game as well, even if it's just like a quick slant, like as long as it's not something where it's like, okay, they're like lined up in the backfield, like, okay, they're gonna run the ball. Like I would expect it too, but we shall see. So Kyle says, yeah, Savage takes a lot of risk. He loves to ball hawk and can leave to giving up big plays, which can lead to giving up big plays. Joe Barry loves that style, so Savage has the coach's blessing to continue being super aggressive. And a good point about targeting Quay Walker in coverage. Barry's system has linebackers covering slot receivers a lot. Yeah, not my words. As I said, I am not that knowledgeable on the Packers defense, but that's why I wanted to bring it in, because I mean, he's a guy that literally covers the Packers for a living. So I was like, okay, that's what I'm going to do. And shout out to Kyle for liking Axel Dental, because I know. That was a good one. I cut it myself.
That was funny. I will give you that was a funny.
I'm just so witty. So Marcus Cannon, before when I was writing this, it was still a question if he was going to be brought to the 53-man roster. At this point, we are aware that he is, especially with Yodny Kajus going to IR, which I kind of question what is going on. Why is he going to IR for a thumb? Like, what happened? I didn't even hear about this injury.
Too hard. I don't know.
It's interesting. So I was already thinking that he might be coming up anyway, because of the injuries, if they were going to leave them out or something. But now that we know for sure, I'm curious to see what they're going to do with Cannon, because we've seen Isaiah Wynn struggle with penalties specifically. In the last 2 games, he has 4 in the last 2 games, and he's allowed 6 pressures to Mac Jones in that time as well. So I'm wondering if they might switch Wynn out and put Cannon there, or what they're going to do, because obviously bringing Cannon up, they brought him up there for a reason. I can't imagine they're just going to have him warming the bench. But do you think that we'll see that at all?
Yeah, they're gonna need to do something with Isaiah Wynn. I mean, he's like a matador out there. It just seems like every defender is getting right by him, no problem. And then when they don't get by him, it is a penalty, whether hold or whatever the case may be.
And he keeps blowing up. Like, if you're gonna get penalties, it's whatever. Like, it's not that it's a good thing, but I mean, like, you know, it happens.
Shit happens. Yeah,
but Wynn has just continuously gotten them on plays that were successful and like what the offense needed. So his penalties take these plays back. And I'm just like, dude, the offense has been struggling all season and they finally get something done. And then they get called back because you were holding a guy. Like, why couldn't it be like, I don't remember if it was last week or the week before, but he did get called on one where it was like, even when I was writing about it, I was like, okay, like it's bad because he got penalized, but it was on a play that resulted in negative yards anyway. So I was like, okay, that one is whatever because it already resulted in negative plays or negative yards, excuse me. But yeah, I that's going to be my concern since we had already kind of talked about the penalties being an issue, and we'll get there in a second again. But we have Chris's support for Sir Marcus Cannon to come fix our O-line. We shall see. Kyle says with the new IR rules of only 4 weeks and unlimited number of players can return from IR, teams are much more liberal about who they place on IR. Yeah, and I wonder if this is kind of like their way of testing Cannon because he didn't play last year, or not really, and not a whole lot from injury, and then he sat out in 2020. So, and he's older. He's in his mid-30s. So it'll be interesting to see how he does in like an actual game. because he's only been on the practice squad. He wasn't with them during the preseason. So I would like to see him make an impact immediately. I think that would be great, especially like where we were just talking about the issues that we keep seeing with Isaiah Wynn. But I told you I wanted to talk about one of my guys, Jonathan Jones. I have a lot of guys. I just have a lot of guys. So Jonathan I just meant like, you know.
Did you know that Jonathan Jones is right now the #1 rated PFF?
Did you see my article that I put out about it yesterday?
I did retweet it. Yes.
Okay, so then yes, I did know.
Yes, I just wanted to let that out for the peeps.
I was gonna talk about it, but you beat me to it again. So Jonathan Jones, and it's funny because, you know, I share some articles on Facebook just to get more traction because, you know, the boomers on Facebook are not on Twitter, so more people deserve to read.
I don't know how to use Twitter.
My content. And they've been arguing with me the past day and a half about Jonathan Jones not being that great and Jalen Mills has been fine. And I'm like, I wrote about Jalen Mills being the cornerback 1 from what we saw in preseason, and I was fully on board for it. I was excited. He looked great in the latter half of 2021. So I was like, yep, we're killing it. They're doing great.
Boys.
Yes, boy. And then, by the way, oh my God, you have to stop with the wrestling things. I just want to like talk about it.
I know.
But I missed the Pretty Deadly, the video that they showed. So I had to watch it. I've watched it twice. So
only twice? I'm shocked it's only twice.
Yeah, because Elton also looks extra yummy in that video. So I might watch it again.
You might have to watch for a third time.
Yeah. Just because of the
the yummy factor.
The hairy chest. Anyway, so so Jones, as you said, is the highest graded cornerback by PFF. Overall, he's graded 85.6. And in coverage, he's graded a 90.4. And since I brought up Jalen Mills, he is actually the lowest graded corner so far. I think he has like a 29.
That's so brutal.
For people who want to talk about that, it's whatever. If you don't have to be a big fan of Jonathan Jones and maybe you really like Jalen Mills, that's fine. And I don't dislike Jalen, but he's been struggling this year and he has been dealing with a hamstring injury. So we will give him, that leeway for that for sure. But Jonathan Jones has been nearly a lockdown corner. It's his first season playing on the outside. I just learned that up until this year, he had only played 16% of all snaps on the outside. And the fact that this is his, they basically told him in preseason, hey, you're playing on the outside this year, and he's playing this great. I think that says a lot about how well-rounded and just like actually good player he is. Mm-hmm. So I would assume that he's probably going to be matched up with Randall Cobb, but obviously Randall plays in the slot a lot. So I wouldn't be surprised if we see Jones kind of going back to the slot. But I am not concerned. I was going to ask you, and I'm going to get to it in a second, about how confident you are in this matchup. But I'm assuming that you are pretty confident because if we're looking back to week 1, Jonathan Jones limited Tyreek Hill, who we know completely blew up against the Ravens in week 2 with like 160 something yards and 2 touchdowns. Limited him to only 4 receptions for 50 yards. And when they've matched up in 6 games, I mean, he's only allowed him to have like 140 something yards, which is insane. Jones has 2 forced fumbles on the year and an interception, and he's playing in a contract year. So before we get into that conversation, are you confident in him matching up with anybody, but especially if he has to play in the slot against Cobb?
He's going. Okay,
sorry, I just read what Chris said, but we'll get into that in a
second.
No,
I'm trying to find a good way to word this. The best.
Do you need
way?
Help?
I may need.
Is Jonathan Jones going to tombstone pile drive Randall Cobb?
All right, so we're not the only ones here talking about wrestling. Clearly, no, he's actually going to be tombstone pile driving Romeo Doubs. That's the only person I am concerned with. For killing the Patriots. Really, is because he is the only receiver so far to have I would say, strong enough connection with Rodgers. He's been an absolute force in the fantasy world too. Mm-hmm. So if you're a Patriots defense trying to game plan for this, I mean, Randall Cobb, you're going to plan for him. You're going to plan for Lazard. But the hot guy on the wire right now is definitely Romeo Doubs, and you don't want to continue you do not want to continue his streak of dominance and excellence. The best way to do that is you put the number one corner statistically in the league against them.
Yeah. So. Yeah. Well, and I think it'll be interesting to see how they do that because we know, as we've already said a billion times, that obviously Cobb is the guy.
Lover boy.
Rodgers lover boy. So if we see Jones covering Dobbs, it'll be interesting to see if they do switch him over to Cobb possibly, or who they're going to have on Cobb. I guess we're going to see if, if Mills can hang. If they have Jones lined up with Dobbs, then maybe he'll be the one that's on Cobb. So, oh my gosh, I just thought of like an Impractical Jokers thing. Have you seen the one where they have Sal being like, Rob slobbed on Bob's Cobb? Have you seen that?
Yeah.
Anyway, too many references. You're a bad influence on me on my show.
Oh, sorry. My entertainment X factor is showing.
I know.
Sorry.
It's because I exposed myself. I expose myself as the truly weird human that I am, and I try to keep that under wraps on here. I struggle.
Don't worry, I'm Captain Nonsense to the bullshit. So together we form one hell of a superhero duo.
So I did want to say, since I said that he's playing in a contract year, and this is a conversation we don't have to have right now, but because we are. Do you think Belichick will pay him the big bucks if Jonathan Jones continues to play as well as he is?
How old is he?
Jonathan Jones. Ooh, I want to say he's like 30.
So, like, I'm not saying this to be a dick. I really don't know because I played so much Madden with him in franchise mode. So, like, to me, he's like 34.
Oh, he's 29. He's freshly 29.
Does not pay him. Too old.
Really?
Putting my Belichick visor on because I'm going to make this point. Is that Belichick does not pay guys. He doesn't. He does not pay defensive stuff. Even if you're playing so well right now, it's not about that. He likes to see long term, and he'd rather pay a guy that's 24, 25 that there's a little bit of potential there. He hasn't hit his top bar. He hasn't hit his gross and whatever. And he wants to go for guys like that to pay him because in his mind, he thinks he's going to get a deal on him. Now, if he signs Jonathan Jones to a big bag, he's not going to get a deal on it. And it doesn't do him any good, and he's played out his expected time, whatever the case may be. I just don't see Belichick doing that because it's not very Belichickian, where he'd rather wait like 2 years and pay one of the Joneses that money.
Yeah, and I think that's what I was going to say is that I think that a lot of that is probably going to come down to how he feels about the development of the Joneses and Jack and Marcus, because if he doesn't see them to be reliable or maybe not on pace to be like where he feels they should be at in year 2, which is obviously next season, then he might pay Jonathan Jones. And it'll be interesting because if he does predominantly play on the outside this year, outside cornerbacks make a lot more money than slot corners. So then that's going to force his hand too if he's like trying to keep him. But it's like, well, you're the one who moved him to the outside. So you kind of knew that if he played well, that you would have to pay him a lot.
Okay.
But I feel like it also depends, like, as it does with any player that plays in a contract year, what they're chasing. Are you chasing money? Are you chasing rings? Or are you just comfortable where you're at? Because it's possible that Jones will say, maybe I'm fine with staying in New England. I want to be a Patriot for life, and he'll take a pay cut to stay if they offer it. Or he might try and go to whoever the current Super Bowl favorite is, whoever that is at the time of next year. But
yeah, I know.
That'll be interesting to see because obviously I hope he plays well the entirety of the year. But I would hate to lose him. We've seen great things from Jack Jones, especially so far, but it is just his rookie year. So it's kind of scary to think about going into next season with Jalen Mills being like the only veteran, basically.
Mm-hmm.
Especially because we don't know if Jawan Williams will be back. This is the last year of his contract too.
Mm-hmm. We don't know.
Yes. So let's get into the ways to win, which are fairly easy. This was nothing,
Play well.
This wasn't anything that took me a long time to come up with. But the biggest thing going forward is protecting the football. Stop turning the ball over. If you want to read about this, I just put an article out this morning with Musket Fire. I have it on my Twitter about all of the issues that they are having with turnover. They have 8 total turnovers this season. So 3 fumbles have been lost and 5 interceptions by Mac Jones. And they've only had opponents have only turned it over 4 times. So literally they've had double. They lost both to the Dolphins and the Ravens because they lost the turnover battle. Those are both very easily winnable games. I don't care what anyone says. They very easily could be 3-0 at this point had they not turned the ball over so much and given them opportunities. Because, I mean, look at how the Ravens lost to the Dolphins. That's ridiculous. And the defense only allowed 13 points by the Dolphins offensively. So
that's what I'm saying. Yes.
It's like it very easily could have been a 14-13 game, just like last year it was a 16-17 point game in week 1. So I would say that that's the biggest thing that they need to work on. What do you agree?
Imagine a 3-0 Patriots team right now.
Dude.
How different. Like I'm not saying like keep Mac healthy and all. No, like Mac's hurt, but they still win that game.
Well, and what we saw in preseason, everyone thought we were going to go 0-4 in the first 4 games. Can you imagine if they went
you idiots? No, there was no way in hell this team was going 0-4. Yeah. First off, the Steelers was a win. Like that was a win I had crossed off in August. The Steelers are trash. Ravens, I thought that it was going to be close and it was going to come down to a field goal, vice versa. I don't know what side, but it was going to come down to that.
It should.
And they shocked me again with the Patriots just not doing their job and letting it slip away. Miami is Miami. I always count that as a loss before anything, just because Miami, like, that's a weird dimension down there.
Yes,
shit happens and it doesn't make sense.
It's the Bermuda Triangle.
It really is the Bermuda Triangle of the NFL. Miami, Jacksonville, and Tampa. It's just a weird area. You just stay away. Just stay away. Yes. Protecting the football is something that I don't think they're going to be able to stay away from. I just don't. Hoyer is going to turn the ball over a lot, or he's going to try to, and it's going to be just an absolute eyesore to watch him try to play the sport of football.
His goal in life is to throw interceptions.
I have absolute zero faith in Brian Hoyer.
Can you try to be a little bit optimistic?
I have all the faith in the world.
You're way too full of optimism, usually on an every day-to-day basis, so I'm a little shocked.
Oh, I have absolute zero faith in Brian Hoyer.
Well, can you pretend?
It's all going to be. I try to pretend. I wake up. That's pretending. Okay, my faith lies in Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson getting the ball 12 times each, at least, because that's what you're going to have to do to beat this team. The Packers cannot stop the run. Historically, they could not have done it. If they did, they would have been in the Super Bowl over Jimmy G. They just don't know how to stop the run. So if you're Belichick and you're going to go into this game like, how the hell are we going to win this? You have to rely on Harris. You have to rely on Stevenson, and then throw in Jonnu Smith and do if Pat Mahomes and Travis Kelce can do that bullshit flick, schoolyard bullshit play, why can't you? Why can't you incorporate that into your offense? I could do it. Give me a clipboard.
So the next one is, we already talked about it, stop with the penalties. And I don't think it was which game was it? I can't remember. There was one week where all of the flags were on the offense. So the defense is doing their job. And I think basically every single week when they are flagged, it's on the offense. Like it's majority on the offense, if not solely on the offense. So hopefully they can stop with that. And a lot of that, as we said, starts and stops with Isaiah Wynn. But yeah, you're not helping yourself when you're, first of all, creating turnovers, and then you're also getting flagged and stopping plays. Huge thing. Obviously, I'm assuming you agree.
So okay. You can move on. I don't.
So then I said, dominate the run game on both sides. Use the run game to your advantage, but also make sure you stop the running on the other side, because they do have the amazing tandem of Aaron Jones and AJ Dillon. Plus, running the football helps you run the clock, which keeps Aaron Rodgers off the field. And like you were already saying, exploit their weak run defense. So the longer that you have the ball, the less opportunities Rodgers has to come in and throw his favorite thing in the world, which is a Hail Mary, and you guys have a better chance at winning. Yeah?
Yeah. No,
Okay.
I motion redundancy, really. I already, yeah.
Yes. So defense needs to make plays. We talked about this too. They've continuously done it through every single game this far, through 3 games so far. They're going to have to do it again. So they've already, gotten interceptions. They've forced fumbles. They have 4 turnover plays so far on the year through 3 games. They're going to have to do it again because playing in Green Bay is already scary enough. But now that they're going in with Brian Hoyer, who hasn't started a game in 2 years, they're already having an offense that is struggling. They're going to have to go with the run game probably for the majority of the game. They're going to have to do something to give them another opportunity to try and at least keep the game close. Like if at the end of the day they end up losing, it is what it is. It's not fun. But if they can keep it within reach and not have it be a complete blowout, I think that's a successful day.
Mm-hmm. I would agree. I would agree.
Our friend Chris Godwin says Hoyer is going to throw for 3 touchdowns. I love the optimism.
Yeah, and Madison Pettis is going to come to my house. I'm going to take her on a nice date, and she's going to fall in love with me. Those are 2 realistic things.
Okay.
Ridiculous.
Kyle says, great job. Also, thank you, Sarah, for joining me on the Full Press Packers pod earlier this week. No problem. It was my pleasure. Invite me back anytime, even if the Packers are not my favorite team. I am down to talk football anytime, and I appreciate the invite. So thank you, Kyle. And don't forget, guys, that's all I have to talk about today. But I will be back on Monday at 5 p.m. Eastern, probably solo, but we will talk about everything that happened in the Patriots-Packers game. And where can they find you online, sir?
Oh, you can find me anywhere. Never mind. I can't think of anything funny there. So you can find me on Twitter at @Pat_Pitts for all things NFL, Boston sports, wrestling, and other shenanigans. And Gillette Gazette. Follow us on Twitter as well, where I write and put all my Patriots content up. Gillette Gazette on Twitter, and then GilletteGazette.com for my articles. My prop bet article, what time is it now? It's 6:00, goes live in an hour Eastern time for the best prop bets to play. And kind of give you a little tease on the show, Sarah, of what my props are. So if your little viewers want to know more about it, you can go check out that article at the GilletteGazette.com. The Loaded Box, which I'm the champion of, proud and defending champion of the Loaded Box. Follow us on Twitter at Loaded Box. We put out an episode yesterday giving you the best starts for DFS this week. And I'm actually, Sarah, in our league in ESPN and other leagues, I'm 3-0.
I know. I noticed
so I'm
that.
kind of a wizard now. It's kind of nice. I got my wizard powers.
You are a fantasy football god.
Someone's saying it. I love when that. I love when we get the recognition we deserve. Loaded Box. And then I got to give a shout out to Underground Sports Philadelphia because it's where we started. That's the birthplace of Patty fucking Pitts. So give them a shout, give them a follow at Underground PHI. And fun fact, if they get 1,000 YouTube subscribers to the Underground Sports Philadelphia YouTube channel, I will be competing in a draft combine, but not your standard NFL combine. Like you throw in your 40-yard dash, your little 3-cone and passing drills, but like throw some flip cup in there. Let's do some dizzy bat. Like it's going to be a shenanigans combine. Okay. But the only way that happens is if we get 1,000 subscribers. So like as much as I want to do it, like how badly do you want to see that?
Pretty bad.
Exactly. So
pretty bad.
As we say in New England, do your job.
Yeah.
Go follow.
So you can follow me on Twitter at SMarshXO. You can follow E2G Sports at E2G Sports on Twitter and on YouTube and online, E2Gsports.com. Don't forget to check out my articles on Musket Fire and PW Mania in case you're a wrestling fan.
Those are good. I've been reading them.
I'm hoping to have another one done tonight.
Nice.
Because I need to get better about that. But I will see you guys on Monday. And don't forget, go Pats. See you guys.